Hello and welcome to Onward Lebanon, a television show about Lebanon schools, our people, our places, and our programs. I'm ICRC-TV, Superintendent of Lebanon City Schools. I'm excited today to be joined by our Athletic Director, Keith Pantling, and Head Wrestling Coach, Nick Hensley. Thanks for joining me today, guys.
Of course, thank you for having us.
We're just going to jump into talking about some kids, some programs, some things that make Lebanon special. Keith, I'll start with you. You know, we continue to see success as a team and individuals within Lebanon Warrior Athletics. You know, what are some things we need to be aware of, some highlights from the fall or winter season that you want to talk about today? Sure.
Well, first of all, I mean, we compete at the Division I level, so we're constantly in some really competitive environments. I'll first and foremost say I know most people are interested in what's going on the football field. The success we've had the last 3 years under Coach Failer, getting 7+ wins for 3 straight years, 8 wins this past year. Get to the second round of the playoffs. That's a really, really impressive feat here in Southwest Ohio. So definitely want to highlight that and the success that they've had. That permeates throughout our building when there's successful football programs first and foremost. So really, really cool to see their success. And then naturally we have very gifted athletes in other other sports. I do want to highlight girls golf. We haven't traditionally been great there, but Olivia Donovan made it all the way to state this year, the second straight time. She's just a junior. Just a great experience for her up at Firestone. There's been some other tremendous accolades throughout the fall. Obviously now we're in the middle of the winter season. It's a long one, as Coach knows. Yep. So we get to this point in time where I don't think there's a single athlete or coach who the script's written the way they had it at the beginning of the year. So a lot of trials and tribulations. No one goes undefeated, right? So working through those things and the ebbs and flows of a season. But we're doing some great things on the mat, on the hardwood, in the swimming pool, and we'll see kind of where things shake out as we reach the postseason here.
I've seen a couple of things recently, and I think you guys do a great job of sharing individual stories or student success stories. And I was at a Turpin basketball game the other night, and somebody from Turpin that I was talking to asked about a girls or a boys bowling program. They said, I saw something that your athletic department put out about a perfect game in a Baker series. Yeah. And I think those things, we have the opportunity to highlight those. Yeah. So I just want to congratulate the girls. It was the girls bowling team, right?
The boys bowling team did it in a Baker game.
Okay.
And they continue to have success every year. Ron Volmering just has been here. I'm sure a lot of people around town know Ron, and he does a great job, and they continue to have success every year. And kids continue to come out to want to be part of that culture, and they do a great job.
Yeah, it was exciting for them. I think it's just a good reminder for me too that while we see the success of the big programs, we have a lot of kids participating in ways that they're interested in, give them the way to be a part of something bigger than just themselves and to represent the schools. And so I thought it was a great, fun story. An attorney that we work with, whose kids go to Turpin, saw this post and wanted to talk about it at a basketball game last week. So anything that's coming up in terms of athletic department or booster world that you want to highlight or get information out about before we move on?
Yeah, we'll be pushing some stuff out soon. LebanonWarriors.com's our home website. There'll be some stuff coming out about our booster gala. Our boosters do a tremendous job supporting our programs, kind of the non-budgeted support that we need to continue to compete at the Division I level. So there'll be some information coming out about that. And then sure enough, our spring sports start here within just a couple weeks. I think it's February 16th is the first day for softball practice. And then a week later on the 23rd, all the other spring sports can start with the exception of boys tennis, which is March 9th. So we get right into the swing of things with spring, and we were going over some checklists already today about how to get those facilities ready outside. And it's about 4 degrees out today, but sure enough, we'll be out there in 5 or 6 weeks, outside for the remainder of the year.
Yeah, it's been a great, successful year. So I want to say thanks for all your work and leadership you do within the department. Nick, I want to shift to you, and let's just. I know you're passionate, and you have a program that has been extremely successful for Lebanon High School for a while now. Consistently been one of the top wrestling programs in Southwest Ohio, and competing, at the ECC at a very high level. A little bit of the philosophy behind how you do things. Like, what do you attribute to the success of your program? Maybe it's people, maybe it's the way of the work that you do, but just talk a little bit about your program and the success you've had over the last several years.
I would say the first thing that attributed to our success was the district giving us permission and the opportunity to go get it, to build. There were really no limitations on how hard we were allowed to work. We've always had the facilities we've needed and the time and the spaces we needed to get the kids what they need. So I think it starts with that. And with that, we were able to tap into a community that has a deep-rooted passion for wrestling. And there's a long tradition there. If you look back to the Coach Abrams era up in our room, it's almost like its own wrestling hall of fame in there, the way we recognize all the athletes, old and current. And so, way before all of us got here, wrestling was an important part of Lebanon. And so I was honored 12 years ago to come in and be the next head wrestling coach. And with that, we were able to create a lot of excitement very quickly with the families. And part of the success you referred to had to start with our attempt to become vertically aligned K-12. That was huge. One unifying message from K-12. So myself and my assistants always had a very large role in our youth program. Coach McIntyre, if he ever watches this online, he'll remember Coach McIntyre, one of my assistants, and Coach Garrow, one of my longtime family members and assistants. We would run these youth practices 4 or 5 years together after high school practices were over. Now, we had our own children in the youth program, which definitely helped in lending our time being there with our wives and the time spent away out of the house. But the vertical alignment piece and getting that message across from kids starting at the elementary school through junior high and high school, I think definitely helped with retention, keeping the kids involved with the sport, keeping them familiar with the head coach and the assistants and the language and just our philosophy and how we approach competing in our sport. And of course, just keeping them on the mat and advancing their skills. But I think those things, the district giving us an opportunity, the families coming on board, and vertical alignment K-12 would be the top 3 reasons why we've had continued success here in Lebanon.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where I'm there in the evening a lot, and I see the amount of kids and families coming in and out of that wrestling room at night. And I have commented a lot to people about your presence there long after the high school practices are over. And it does make a difference when you have kids involved in the programs, just like with me. Yeah. My involvement with my kids being in the school system, but it's still intentional, and I want to thank you for that, because I think our community sees the work that you put in there as well, and the time. I saw you at the junior high wrestling meet that happened at the end of school back before.
In-school, yeah.
Yeah, the in-school wrestling meet, which, by the way, I think we should do more of. It is a phenomenal atmosphere and culture there, and kids got excited about it, right? Yeah. To be Weston Woldridge that day and have your match matter and the whole gym's cheering for you, junior high kids, was a really cool moment. But I just wanted to point that out. I think those are it's evident, right, that K-12 alignment and the investment that you're making in kids. So it's such an individual sport, right? One man, one woman on a mat competing against somebody else, but it's also a culture and and the success. And so what are some things maybe in terms of keywords about your program, something that what is it that is a focus every day when you go into the gym and you're working? What are the things that kids walking out of your program are saying, like, I learned these things as being a part of that is a focus for you? Is there anything like that you have?
The number one focus for our entire program is life after sport. It's been that way since I got here. Just throughout my years coaching, and I know all of our coaches in Lebanon are shooting for the top. OHSA something, whether it be a district, a region, a state berth, whatever that is. And so very difficult to do. And to reduce some of the anxiety and pressures and fears of losing and making mistakes, we often tend to link our hard work and what we're trying to chase with the work we're putting in will pave the way for good habits in your life after athletics are long gone. We all spend most of our lives as non-athletes. It's just a very short period of time. So to link that work that we're putting in with a reward that's going to come later in life, and it may not come in the form of wins. To measure success through wins and losses alone is very difficult to do. And so I would say our approach to our wrestling program is transformational versus a transactional model with really everything that we're doing, whether it's the discipline and the mindset you have to have and your approach to a practice that is really focused on technique and getting down the weeds and details, or a high intense practice where it's really heavy on the live goes in combat and you're just physically exhausted and beat down. Whatever the challenge is, you have to know that it's linked to a life later after sports are long gone, because at the end that's what really matters the most. That's what we're doing. And so that is the permeating message that those kids get every day we're together. We always come back to that one way or another. And it's helped the kids really open up, compete more freely. You were talking to me before we got in here about the Jackson Martin experience this weekend at the Maumee Bay. And Eli Guerra, both of those two athletes in particular, were the first ones this season on the boys' side that we've witnessed wrestle, compete free from fear, or I would just say with nothing to lose. And a lot of the mental reps that they're getting don't just come from our practice room, it comes from their families outside the room that are reinforcing that vertical alignment, K-12 messaging that a lot of these families have heard since their kids were in our youth program, which Jackson and Eli were both in our youth program from grades 1, 2, and 3 all the way up to where they are now as juniors and seniors in high school. But that would be the one thing I would say to that.
And I think it's the word I like to think about, that's intentional, right? Like you don't just show up to wrestling practice and kids by osmosis get a life lesson out of it, right? And I see that on a regular basis. Keith, and you and I have talked about that, with some other programs in terms of, what do we hope our kids are getting from this long beyond, high school. And I think that's the purpose of, K-12 athletics and school-based, education-based athletics this is coming alongside of the educational experience. It's an addition to, but man, you can apply a lot of the lessons on a wrestling mat or on a basketball court or a baseball or softball field that carry you through life. And some of my biggest lessons and memories are based off of competing and losing, quite honestly, right? Failure, not being the starter, not being the dude.
I get the good fortune of going in there at 2:30 most days in that wrestling room. The time that people don't, they see the matches and the dual meets and the weekend matches. That wrestling room is raising student athletes to be men and women beyond sport. And there's not a lot of finger pointing in there. You can only point at yourself in wrestling. And and so you'll get lost really quick if you don't kind of pony up and do what you need to do to survive in that room, because they work incredibly hard. Sometimes I want to take some of our other team sports and take them in there for a day and show them a different side of things.
Yeah, I was a basketball player in Indiana in high school, and there was at times not a healthy comparison between wrestling and basketball. They didn't like us, we didn't like them, but I'll tell you what, I always respected the amount of work that they put in. Yeah. Right? And I think about some of those wrestlers, and they're like, you would never survive our practices. And I'm like, you're right. I wouldn't. I'll be honest with you. I wouldn't. And so I think that's something that is really an attribute and a quality that your wrestlers demonstrate on a regular basis. Yeah, you mentioned two of your guy wrestlers by name there in this weekend. I want to highlight just for a moment here our girls wrestling program. I'm not sure a whole lot of people outside the wrestling world know about our girls wrestling program. And before we get into it and ask you a question, I served as a young superintendent on the OHSAA athletic directors committee. So as a superintendent serving with the head of OHSAA at the time, advising on emerging sports and things we're seeing within the field. And I remember 13 years ago as a young superintendent sitting in a room, and we had girls wrestling on our high school boys wrestling team. And we had an alum from Greenview where I was at the time. Her name was Emma Randall. Emma was actually one of the first USA women's wrestling coaches when they began to compete in the last 4 to 5 years. And Emma was an alum that wrestled against boys in high school. Yep. And she's now currently the head coach at Columbia in their women's club wrestling program at Columbia University. So Emma's pretty special. Yeah. And pretty big in the world. And the people in Jamestown were advocating for, when you go to Columbus, we need to get women's wrestling. We need girls wrestling. They need to compete
with girls.
With girls, right? They were competing against boys,
right?
And so we talked a lot about that in those emerging discussions. And it's exciting for me to see that something that was a discussion 12 or 13 years ago has now become a reality. Yeah. And so just talk a little bit about our girls wrestling program. What are some things that you're seeing there in terms of the growth of that sport, and anybody you want to highlight from that as we talk about girls wrestling?
Yeah, I would say, well, it wasn't 13 years ago when the thoughts and, the idea to pull the trigger and do it was, I think, 5 maybe conversations brewing about 6 years ago. We saw a lot of it starting to develop. We saw the Ohio High School Wrestling Coaches Association really fostering the promotion development of girls wrestling against girls. I want to say 5 years ago.
That's been
about 5.
I'm having a hard time remembering, but
Yeah.
I had talked to my assistants in the summer, and I felt this call. I felt this urge. I'm like, it's coming, and we have some fantastic girls in this school that I know would be great with the sport that have never done it. We also have some coming through our pipeline, through our youth in our junior high. And I think the time is now. So, a lot of nervous energy from my staff about how we were going to execute that. And I said, don't worry, things are going to work out just fine. We're going to begin announcing we're going to do this. I'm going to start pulling from the weight room, and we're going to have a clinic in the wrestling room and invite some of the top talent from our area, girl wrestlers from our area that have already had a lot of success, to put on a clinic, because I had a contact with a coach that was willing to do that for us, just to help grow the sport. And this was from Harrison High School, who's now our I guess,
big
our
rival,
nemesis.
right? It's your big rival in the sport, right?
But I would be remiss if I did not mention Rob Deerwester and Chris Baird for lending just their athletes and the experience that they had building their girls program to me as we were trying to fire up. So they did that. And we had a group of 20 or so girls show up to this free clinic we had in the fall.
And we didn't know 20 were going to show up. I mean, we were...
You're expecting a couple.
5.
Right? Yeah.
I mean, we had a lot of conversations.
But what they did at that clinic was the pivot, because
Amen.
how many came back? 14, 15?
Yeah, enough to have a nice team. And these were all pretty special athletes, too, that came out the first year. Talented athletes, multi-sport girls. But, they got to see those girls move in a wrestling context, which I think it eliminated a lot of the butterflies and nervous energy and anxieties they had about trying it. And once I saw other girls that were the same age as them from other schools doing it, that kind of was a segue. It gave us a seamless transition to get the program firing. Been blessed to have Brad Maupin and Chad Hilliard fly alongside me and really spearhead the development of the girls program. 2 of my assistants that I've had since day one, since I've been in Lebanon. And with that, you have the girls wrestling team in Lebanon, and lots of success from day one. Our very first year, we were fortunate enough to have 5 state qualifiers. I want to say we had 3 state place winners that year. One was, Morgan Cope, who, mom is on the school board. I know that we had, Mr. David Fornshell's daughter, Lexi, was on that first team.
Yep. Yeah, she gave up basketball, right?
She doubled. She never quit.
Okay.
She stayed with basketball and wrestling, double duty, her junior year.
Yeah,
and then she transitioned to wrestling full time her senior year.
She's still wrestling at the college level.
She is at Presbyterian Wrestling right now, wrapping up her career. Sophia Roars was a state placer that year, multi-sport athlete, great pitcher, softball pitcher. But so that was the framework. And when the success happened, and that wasn't really what we had in mind. We challenged them. We knew they could do it. We had some really tough girls. But once that happened, it just solidified the brand of, okay, we have a real girls wrestling team here in Lebanon, so let's build up the feeder. And, Coach Taylor, who was our junior high coach at the time, did a great job with a lot of the girls that are now currently juniors and seniors on our team. And that was our pipeline. And now we have so many in our youth. I don't know, dozens in our youth, maybe 10 or so on our junior high team. And our current roster at the high school is just under 20 currently that are active. But so not huge numbers, but enough to where we're fielding good teams. And we have girls that are going to the state tournament, placing every year. We've had 3 state finalists, never state champion yet. We have 3 state runners up.
Yep. It is awesome though that they have the event now at the Schottenstein, and it's in conjunction with the boys. It's an awesome weekend for us every year.
Yeah. It's amazing. I think kudos to you guys for seeing something that's there. And you talked a little bit about this. We'll use this as a segue, Nick. You talked about knowing student athletes in the building that could do it, right? Some special athletes, and that you look at and you say like that. There's something about that kid that they could go do something special on a wrestling mat or whatever. And that comes because of your relationship and what you teach during the day. I'm assuming those kids were probably in your classes right? And so just to transition a little bit here, because you do so much more for us than just wrestling. You're teaching a class called Warrior Build at the high school, which you were also a part of at the ground level getting started, and the vision behind that, but also turning into something that's making us better as Warrior athletes across the board at the high school. So for both you guys, want to just take some time here to talk about Warrior Built. Nick, kind of what was the philosophy of it to begin with, and what are some things that you do on a regular basis inside of Warrior Built for those that don't know, what that program's about?
It's a really long story on how it got started. So I think in short, I would say part of Warrior Built is similar to what I talked about with our wrestling program, which is developing a vertical alignment with unifying message across our athletic department that permeates all of our athletes, that touches the mind, body, and heart, and helps them move the needle physically and psychologically to have a competitive edge for Lebanon athletics. That is every rep, every day. That is kind of like our motto. But we cover a lot of different details that are needed to compete at the Division I level at a high level, not just in Ohio, but across the board. So, last year, for example, I remember that you were able, Isaac, to bring in Players Box, which was a great supplementation to the mindset work that I would do with the kids on Fridays. And they were able to help sit down with the kids and reinforce a lot of the ideas that we had with, pre-competition anxiety, and try to find the right recipe for your pre-competition ritual that gets you in the right headspace so you're going out with minimal fear, minimal nervous energy. Nervous energy is healthy, but how do we bottle that to make it healthy so we're excited to compete versus worried about winning or losing? Those types of things are covered in our program daily, coupled with, I would say, strong, sound periodization with our training models to help our kids with strength, conditioning, speed, agility, all those categories. All those boxes are being checked in this weight room every day, and it's during the school day. So it reduces the amount of time the kids have to spend getting in the weight room after school hours, after practice over. The idea was to get kids home earlier to not feel so tired. We go practice and we have to get a 2-hour lift or 90 minutes in the weight room after practice. Can we find time during the school day to streamline this training process, develop this unifying message, bring all of our coaches together in this project, and just create really a factory building warriors every rep, every day. That's really what we're doing. Yeah.
It's 2 periods a day. Kids can sign up to take that class. It's a semester long. Yeah. I've talked to you about this, like seeing the transformation in my own kid who goes into work and works out for a semester, right? Like he's like, Dad, I've gained muscle and I've lost weight. I'm a better athlete now than I was when I started this program in August. And I think it's during the school day. It's 2 periods of their 8. They have the ability to take it, and it's being utilized by kids across all programs.
Yeah, and it's something our district does that many other districts wish they could do and emulate. We get a lot of questions about how we do it, how we organize it. It does give our kids an edge. And one of the things is, some kids, they can't fit it in their schedule, and that's understandable. But you go to a basketball gym after school, and half the kids are in the weight room getting their lift in. The other half that already worked out during the day are sharpening their skills, doing some individual work. And that happens with a lot of our sports. And the other thing Coach mentioned was the unified message. That's the one place that everybody visits in all of our athletic programs is the weight room. And I'm sure we're going to talk here a little bit about the transformation of that space. But the unifying message and the things that we can do, the one thing that in today's world with sports specialization and all this, and kids coming up and growing and having dreams and aspirations to be high-level athletes, the one thing that's not focused on enough is strength training and performance. And sometimes our best athletes from a performance standpoint are the ones committed in that room. So it's really good that we introduce it to them at an early age and see their growth in there helps how it helps them kind of perform better on the field and the court.
Yeah, you run a summer program for younger kids that's kind of done in a little bit in conjunction with that similar philosophy. Do you have anything you can add about that, or when will they start to be able to see signups for that?
Warrior Stack is really it's a strength conditioning program. It's geared more for our younger student athletes here in Lebanon. You'll see information about Warrior Stack pop up usually right before or right after spring break is when we'll begin signups, and we'll carry them out until we cap our numbers. In the past, we have reached out to incoming 5th through 9th graders. We're having conversations about backing that up even to a younger age group. We'll see how that goes. But I've been blessed to have some great people help me run that. That's really where Warrior Built started, was with Warrior Stack. We started with the youth program in the summer, and as a prototype, which we said, okay, we can do this. Well, how can we do this during the school day? And then we prototyped a school day for a couple double blocks back. Again, the years go by so quickly. Yep. I guess 2021, I'm thinking. And then it exploded, and then the demand was high, and then we ended up adding a second double block, and that's the history of it. But the Warrior Stack Youth Program is really where it all started. And so like Keith said, it is one unifying message, every rep, every day. And we are trying to bring all of our student athletes and families together here in Lebanon through that hard work, good hard work, good programmed hard work. Like the message in the weight room, the kids will tell you every day is do no harm. Our goal in the weight room is to never do harm to the body, and we can't confuse that with physical pain through hard work, but we are there to move the needle and progressively build our skills. We don't cut corners in technique and range of motion, do things the right way. And we start doing that at a young age. Man, the amount of development you can see out of a young kid from grades 5 all the way through their senior year, just like you said with Abe and so many others, it can be transformational.
Yeah.
So
I think that getting kids to understand that, and the beauty of that program that I really think is the idea that it's not just weight training, right? You're talking about mind, body, and spirit. How do they lead those around them? Mm-hmm. How do they prepare mentally, or then deal with failure, deal with success, deal with things in the moment in terms of mentally? And it's just a great program that we're seeing a tremendous amount of success from, and it's taking place in the high school currently in the weight room. Which want to transition here to a little bit of a discussion about that space, just to highlight some recent changes to the facility out there. Keith, you want to talk a little bit about the weight room at the high school and what some things that are exciting lately?
Yeah, well, obviously with the use during the school day plus the evening hours, it's probably the highest traffic room in the building. I think we kind of argued about that a little bit with the administration there, but so we wanted to do some things there. The district was very helpful in looking at the floor and replacing it. So we were appreciative of that. We've recently been able to find some ways to upgrade some of the equipment. Coach has done a great job of reconfiguring it so that we can get a lot of kids in with a lot of reps in a lot of different ways and really utilize the space to the best of its ability. And then the boosters helped us get some new Stray Dog dumbbells. Those are marked with the L spear on them. We also were able to paint the space, and then we have some new graphics coming in here soon that will have some of that consistent messaging. But that transformation, the one thing about athletics is all these kids see and compare you to other districts. It's not oftentimes, I know there are report cards and things, right? But our math class isn't necessarily compared with a neighboring district's math class. But these kids see weight rooms, they see gymnasiums, they see fields, they see courts, and they take a pride in that. And, we wanted to do something that was transformational in that room. And I think the kids are really excited. Oh, yeah. Coach can speak to that. But yeah. They see that investment, they see that commitment to their lab, we call it. They're in there all the time. People see them when they're in the bleachers watching games or whatever. They're in there every day. Kids are in there 24 hours a day. I mean, that place is always, it's clockless, I call it. But it's a special place that they do spend a lot of time with each other and learning lessons and getting that language spoken to them and working hard. And so I just think that change has been great, and we appreciate that from the boosters and the district in supporting that vision.
Amen.
Anything? Any thoughts or stories from kids? They come back from Christmas break and it looks different, feels different, some new stuff. I mean, what's been the sense in terms of that program's shift in the last month?
Well, the kids will tell you I'm very transparent with the visions. So I usually, and when I say something, I'll tell them. Oftentimes I'll say things out loud as a verbal contract to myself. I said this out loud. This is what we're doing. Now, some of the things that just happened in this weight room never would have happened without the help of the district, Scott Butler, Mark Grayler, obviously Keith right here beside me. We talk. We debrief with each other multiple times every week, discussing how we are working together to get things popping and keep the district moving in the right direction. So all those people were paramount in helping this transformation of the weight room, the space happen. But, before break, I said, here's what's going to happen. And again, this was with conjunction with Scott and so many other people, but I said, when you come back, we'll probably have to take a week just to kind of let them finish up their work, but you're going to see a brand new floor. They unboxed the dumbbells before break and kind of helped me move all the equipment to the other side of the facility so there was room for the floor repair. And excitement was high, but, it's kind of like, okay, let's see what happens. And when the paint was going on, you could see the kids I would watch, they would walk by and everybody's looking in because I made sure all the shades were up so people could see what was happening. And when they walked in, it was incredible. Huge shout out to my wrestling families that helped us take the weight room apart and put it back together on Saturdays and Sundays. That was huge. We've never been able to do it without them coming in with their tools and packs and moving things very quickly. But I will tell you, once the doors opened, you asked the question, I'm trying to build it up. The excitement was as high as I've ever seen since I've been here. I mean, a huge transformation to a space that, like Keith said, the room really never sleeps. The amount of traffic it gets, it's serious, right? People want to do a good job. They know that strength and conditioning and just moving our bodies more efficiently, more explosively, all these things that we're trying to get better at have to be done in a good space. And now that space, not only is it aesthetically pleasing, but it accommodates athletes to come in, and we can work with large numbers efficiently. And that is the key to strength and conditioning. It's organization and administration. You have to have a great plan, clearly communicated, and a great flow, incredible organization. And that's what we have going on right now. Not that we did it before. It was a nice flow. I mean, that room has had probably about 3 or 4 different versions of it as we've tried to rearrange things and make it move more, again, fluently for the athletes and the teams that come through and Warrior Built and all the programs. But right now, it's the best it's ever been. And we have a few more, I think, things that we're going to try to wrap up before the end of the school year, maybe going into the next year to put the finishing touches on it. So it's coming together real nice.
Yeah. I talked with, so just to kind of, a couple of things here you guys mentioned. We had some issues with the floor out there. Scott Butler and his administrative assistant, Jamie Buchert, worked really hard to apply for some grant money. We looked at it like, as a district, we can fix the floor, but we won't have any money left over for the dumbbells. Or we can buy dumbbells and not fix the floor.
Right.
Well, we had to fix the floor. And so Workman's Comp, which something we pay to all the time, they have grant money. They received a grant. We had to replace the floor for free for the district, which meant we had some money to put into other things. And huge shout out to the boosters. Scott Butler was talking to me the day that the dumbbells arrived and you guys were unboxing them. He said, I didn't realize how exciting it was for the kids. He said, but there were kids that were walking by just peeking their heads in because they knew the dumbbells had arrived.
Yeah.
Like the word started spreading a little bit. The dumbbells are here. The dumbbells are here, right? The dumbbells are here. The dumbbells are here. Yeah. And kids were just walking in to get a glimpse of them. He's like, the little things, right? To them was huge. Yeah. And he said he was really excited that he was able to be a part of helping that happen at the time. It is a class, right? It's something that it's a class that kids are taking, so we're able to use a little bit of the money from Mr. Grayler in the curriculum department in terms of supporting that as well. And so huge benefit and upgrade of the facilities. I walked in there after it was done, and I'm like, this looks completely different. I feel like there's more racks. I feel like things are laid out. Like, it just kudos to you guys for that work. And I want to thank the two of you for what you do every day. Nick, I see you on sidelines of football games. I see you in bleachers of other sporting events. Because you're not just a wrestling coach, you're doing Warrior Build every day. You're a mentor to student athletes in the building. I could sit and talk to you forever. The excitement that you bring to the table is excellent, and so I just want to publicly say thank you to the work that you're doing. I have a kid who's benefited from his time with you and speaks extremely highly of that, and I know he's not the only one. Thank you for the work that you do. Keith, thanks for your leadership every day in the athletic department. You get to do some fun stuff every once in a while. A lot of the time, the work that we do behind the scenes is not the fun stuff, but some of these things and success of student athletes, a lot of it comes back to the vertical alignment, consistent messaging. It happens through great coaches like Nick, but also through the athletic department as a whole, and so thank you for your leadership in that. I want to thank everybody at home for watching us today and being a part of this show. If you have any questions about what's going on in our athletic program, please reach out to the high school. And Keith, go to LebanonWarriors.com to our website, up-to-date schedules, anything information about our programs. Come out and support our student athletes. Get to a match before the season is over with. Make some time to put it on your schedule to come see what's happening at Lebanon City Schools. Thank you for everything you do to make this a great place to work, a great place to learn. Have a great day, and onward, Lebanon.